Everybody.
Happy holidays. Happy Wednesday.
It's almost, I put up my Christmas sweater for you all.
Looks
Do you
good.
like it? I was like, should I wear stripes on a Zoom screen? I don't know, but I'm going to because it's my Christmas sweater. So we're just going to do it. Hey, if you want to tell us in the chat box where you're joining us from today, what part of the world you live in, what role you have, and maybe also what do you most hope to get out of this webinar? What would you like to learn? I think we still have someone in the waiting room there. I'll let them in. Good. All right. Graham, are you kicking us off or should I go for it?
You go ahead, Anna.
Awesome. Ooh, we have a bunch of people from
You,
Tennessee. Awesome.
yeah. DFW, rock and roll.
All right. Well, let's go. I'm coming to you from Greenville, South Carolina. So that's where I am today. And we're just going to jump right in. We have a lot to cover. I have a couple tips for you to get the most out of today's webinar. One, I encourage you to take notes. Two, my goal is to give you as much as I can in the 30 minutes that we have. So I could either talk slow and not cover as much, or I could talk fast and give you a lot, knowing you'll get this recording later. So are you all good with the option two? And I give you as much as I can, but I'll talk fast? I'm from the Northeast. I can talk fast. So here's what I recommend. As you take notes, in your notes, put little timestamps of when, for example, we started this right at noon. So if what I was saying right now was something you wanted to listen to, the clock says 12:02 Eastern time, put 2 minutes down in your notes as a reference point so you can easily find it in the recording. So we'll do option two. I'm going to move pretty fast today. All right, so how do we create value so they actually hire you? So I want to encourage you real quick. Using the techniques I'm teaching in today's webinar, we've seen teams, my own team included, and then teams we've coached on this concept, get 90% of sellers to hire them, 95% of buyers to hire them. Industry standard is around 80. So who here would like 90 to 95% of people that you sit in front of to actually hire you? Anyone? Okay, that's what I thought. So using some of the methods in today's class, that's part of what helps people get there. So let's go ahead and jump in about how do you build value so they actually hire you. So we're going to first talk about customized offers. So how do you customize what you're offering to each person? Then we're going to talk through the difference between a customer and a client. And then we're going to talk about how to set up the appointment so they actually hire you, which is why I said I'm going to talk fast and take notes and do timestamps in your notes because that's a lot in 30 minutes. So I found this quote. I thought it was pretty amazing. It said, if you make listening and observation your occupation, you will gain much more than you can by talking. So again, if you make listening and observation your occupation, you will gain much more than you can by talking. Do we all relate to that? Have you ever engaged with someone in sales and they talked, and you sat there and thought, well, wait, you don't even know what I need. I was actually interviewing marketing companies this past week, and I interviewed 6, and 5 of them spent the majority of time asking me questions to understand my goals. The 6th one, he actually talked for about 18 minutes of our 30-minute call before he asked any questions. And I immediately knew. I started scrolling Facebook actually while he was talking. And I thought to myself, this is not a good sign if I'm scrolling Facebook while he's trying to sell me his product. But I thought of like, okay, how many of us are tempted to talk a lot without actually adding value? So where I found the value in those calls, 6 interviews in 7 days, you kind of start to pick up some stuff. It was the ones who listened and asked questions. Those are the ones that I have the warm feelings towards. Those are the ones where I'm like, oh, they probably would do a good job of marketing because they actually understand what I need. So don't underestimate the power of listening. Um, I've gotten on a kick lately of listening to, or it's not listening to, learning about the power of small things. Here's a really interesting stat to write down. Okay. I was looking at the 2024 Summer Olympics in France and just looking at what difference did first place to fourth place make? Because first place is a gold medal, fourth place is no medal, right? So what's the power? Like, what is, hey guys, make sure you're muted. I don't know, Graham, if you can help me out. Here we go. Um, what's the power between a first place and a fourth place person? Because they make a lot different money, right? So I looked up 2024 Olympics and I just started looking at some of the different races. And there was a canoe race where the difference between first place and fourth place was only 0.2 seconds. 0.2 seconds. If that doesn't speak to the power of small things making a big difference, I don't know what does. And you know what is interesting is they study 25 countries. First place gold medalists earn on average right around $100,000. What do you think fourth place makes? Nothing. So you're telling me that 0.2 seconds makes a difference between 100,000 or nothing? That's what the data shows. So the guy who got fourth place, he said it's not just about having a good race. It's literally going to determine where I live next year based on these small things. And I thought, gosh, doesn't that relate to us in our skill when it comes to talking with buyers and sellers? Small things really matter. So listening really, really, really matters. So the key to customized offers is spend time listening to their motivation and then also asking them, what are you looking for in a real estate agent? So for example, I see Jill and Laura in my screen right now. The value proposition I'm going to offer Jill is going to be very different than the value proposition I offer to Laura because they're two different people with two different things that matter to them, right? So one of them might really care what my marketing strategy is, and somebody else might really care about how frequently we're going to communicate. And to take it further, haven't you ever had a client that says, I want to hear from you every day, which is a lot. And then there's other clients that are like, I don't really want to talk that much, just maybe a once a week update because they're a bigger picture kind of person. We've all had those clients, right? So the key to knowing how to build your value proposition, there might be some standard things that you tell everyone, but honestly, it's going to look a little different for every person you talk to. And you're going to know what that is by learning about what is their motivation, what's their goal, and then what are they looking for in a real estate agent. So let's talk about how do you uncover motivation. So write these down. What's on the screen has made me a lot of money and helped me help a lot of families. And I want that for you as well. So uncovering motivation is simply something like what makes you want to move. So if I'm talking to Carl, hey, Carl, great to meet you. Moving is a lot of work. What makes you want to move? And I'm going to start to hear about his personal goals. As he answers me, I'm going to take whatever he just said and turn it into my next question. So if Carl says, I really want to downsize, that's here's the level we need. I need enough motivation that if Carl attempts to cancel, not show up for his appointment, maybe we're out driving around looking at houses and he's like, oh, I'm so tired of this. I don't want to do it anymore. Have you ever had a client that just wants to give up? I see a lot of people nodding their heads. Sometimes we want to give up, right? But what's going to keep them engaged is their own personal motivation. So if all I know about Carl is that he wants to downsize, quite frankly, that is not enough to keep him engaged. If he tries to cancel an appointment with me, just say, hey, Carl, you want to downsize? What's happening? What makes you not want to show up today? That's not really enough. So what I need to do is go deeper. So I might say, hey, Carl, what about downsizing is important to you? And the key here is take whatever word they just told you and put it into the very next question that you ask them. So what about downsizing is important to you? And maybe he says, well, I really want to save money. Okay, how will saving money impact you? So as you're writing the questions down, the blanks are intentional. It's not a fill in the blank for your notes. It's that blank is whatever they just said on your last question. So how will saving money impact you? And maybe he says, I used to have a lot of kids in the house. They've all moved out. And I'd love to cut my mortgage in half by living somewhere smaller so that I can retire a little bit earlier than I can right now. So, okay, what happens if you don't retire early? What happens if you don't have half of the mortgage payment? And guys, the what happens if you don't question, put a star by that one in your notes. That, first of all, you can't ask that one too early because it feels weird. You'll know if you do it in a conversation, it feels weird to do the takeaway early. But when I feel like I've really uncovered their motivation and I say, hey, what happens if you don't downsize so that you can do XYZ? That is a good way for me to figure out how serious are they. What I find when I ask clients, hey, what happens if you don't downsize so you can have half the mortgage and retire early? I tend to find they're either like, oh, well, it's just not an option. I mean, I have to. Or it might be a little more like, well, I mean, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It's just something I want to do. And now the people who say it's not the end of the world, it's just something I want to do, it doesn't mean that they won't move ever. They still could move, but it just lets me know they may not be feeling quite as urgent about it. Is this making sense to everyone? Give me like a head nod or a thumbs up. Okay, awesome. So part of building the value is, say I'm talking to TJ, part of my value proposition is knowing their motivation and using that throughout the conversation. So let me show you what that looks like. So on the left side of the screen, we have how to uncover motivation. Now I'm going to talk about how to use it to build that value proposition. So if you look on the right side of the screen, utilizing it would look like, hey, TJ, so I can help you downsize and have half the mortgage so that you can retire early. I have some questions for you. And I'm setting myself up to pre-screen him or pre-qualify. Pre-screen, pre-qualify, kind of the same thing. Can you all understand me, by the way? Okay. I'm a little congested and I feel like I sound like a cartoon. So I just want to make sure you can understand me. All right. So it's again that value, and it shows that I care. It shows that I'm listening. Is, hey, so I can help you downsize and have that retirement and half the mortgage cost. The next step would be for me to ask you some questions, something like that. The next piece, or the other way you could use it, is, hey, the reason we're getting together, Sheila, like, yeah, we're going to talk about marketing. We'll talk about how we go through listing your house or buying the house. But just remember, the main reason we are getting together is to help you downsize so you can retire early. That is why we are getting together. Uh, you know, we do have things we need to talk to clients about, and we do have things that we need to we do have things that we need to make sure that they understand, especially around like agency, what all that means and all that. But to be honest with you, that's not really the exciting stuff. How many of you have worked with a financial planner before? Anybody? Okay, good. Good. I see a lot of hands. Yay. Yay for financial planning. Um, let's be honest. If we go to a financial planner, do you like love all the in-depth detail? Or do you just want to know, how can I retire at a certain age? Or how can I get the thing that I want? Like, some of us with our personality, we do love the detail, but I would venture a guess that most of us, if we go to a financial planner, we're going because we don't want to know all the detail. I just want the outcome, right? We want the outcome. And again, some people do like the detail, but the thing is, if people are coming to you to help them with something, that usually means I don't want to have to know everything and you do. So I'm going to hire you. So the thing is, right here, when we are setting the appointment, part of what will help you build value is letting them know we're meeting to get your goal. We're meeting so that you can downsize and live at the beach and retire early. Yeah, we'll talk about marketing, and yeah, we'll talk about all the like detailed stuff. But we're meeting to ultimately get you what you want. Now, in a few slides, I'll show you how do you figure out if they want the detail. So you might have someone who wants all the detail. But again, it's all about their primary motivation. Here's the other thing about listening and asking questions. They are unlikely to want to spend time repeating all of that to another agent. So I'm kind of a nerd and I've timed client conversations over the years. Say that it takes one conversation to get from hello all the way through set appointment, uncovering motivation, pre-screening them and all that. It only takes about 12 minutes if you're intentional with your questions. That's not a lot of time, but it's enough time that, say Kenny calls them next, uh, they're just probably not going to want to repeat another 12, 15-minute conversation with another agent because they already did that with you. You see what I mean? Like they've already done it. And they don't want to invest that time with someone else. The other thing that I'll tell you is I've had clients say to me, why didn't other realtors ask me these questions? Why didn't they ask me? You know, I've had 3 other realtors call me today. You're the only one that's actually asked me these questions. Now, they're not saying this, but what they're saying is you're standing out and you're set apart because you've asked questions. And yeah, I love what Paul just put in the chat box. Hashtag relationships before transactions. Relationships before transactions. So just know part of building your value proposition is actually not talking a ton about yourself. Your value proposition is what you know about your client. Now, obviously, you'll have to talk about yourself at some point, but that's not like the highlight of the whole thing. The highlight is your client. So let's go on to helping to understand what are your clients looking for. So this is what will help you understand, is this someone that wants all the detail? Or are they more of a big picture person? So ask them, first you've asked them about motivation. And before you set the appointment, you're going to make sure you ask them, hey, what are you looking for in a real estate agent? What are you looking for in a real estate agent? Basically, what you are asking them is, what do I need to put in my value proposition so that you'll hire me? Is basically what you're asking. So what are you looking for in a real estate agent? And I've done this now 11 years, and my primary role is inside sales. So that means I'm on the phone like 6 hours a day talking to buyers and sellers when I'm in the role. So I do this a lot. You know what most of them say when you say, what are you looking for in a real estate agent? You know the number one thing that they say? Just sell my house. Just buy my house. Or help me buy a house. Now, there's a saying, I want you to write this down. My mentor, Haro, used to say this to me. He said, be funny, make money. Be funny, make money. So what I like to do when I say, hey, so what are you looking for in a real estate agent? And they say, hey, sell my house. I like to tease them and say, like, Fran, you're so unreasonable. So you want me as a real estate agent to sell your house? I can't even believe it. I don't think we can work together. And I can see your faces. Several of you are smiling at me right now. So if you can get them laughing a little bit, that does go a long way. Obviously, be your own personality, but if you can find a way to put some humor in there, that does go a long way. So let's say that they say, I want communication. That's another thing we hear a lot. I want good communication. Well, I actually would love to use the chat box right now. You tell me, what does good communication mean to you? Like as you as a person, you as an agent, what does good communication look like to you? Fill up the chat box here for just a minute. Weekly updates is what Suzanne has to say. You're clear and honest. That's where I would tease him again a little bit, Leah. Like, you want me to be honest with you? I just don't know if we can work together. And they usually laugh. Clear and consistent. But what does consistency mean? Is this every day? Is this once a week? Yeah. One phone call a week and text is necessary. That's a very specific answer. So you guys are asking me questions. What I want you to do is tell me, if you were a client, what would good communication look like to you? That's what I'm asking for in the chat box. Proactive, not reactive. Yeah. So what does that mean though? Do you see the challenge? What does consistency mean? Some people, you will drive them crazy if you give them an everyday update. You will drive them bananas. Other people, if you don't give them a daily update, they're going to wonder if you're even working. So you have to get clarity. So that's why I wanted you to put in the chat box, what does it mean to you? Because that just proves the point. Even in this group, some of you want daily communication, some of you want weekly communication, some of you want phone calls, some of you want texts. It's across the board. So whenever they tell you, whether it's, I want communication, I want success. Okay, success means different things to different people. What does that mean to you? If they say, I want an agent who sells my home quickly, what would be a good follow-up question to that? You can use the chat box. I want an agent who sells my home quickly. Define quickly. Exactly. So when you say quickly, What does that mean to you specifically? I just want to make sure we're on the same page. What does that mean to you? Okay, so maybe they say sell my house in 2 months or less. Okay. So, Carl, if I sold your house in less than 2 months, I also communicated with you weekly with a text here and there. Is there anything else you would be looking for in a real estate agent? Guys, this page plus their personal motivation, you now have everything you need to build a value proposition. So notice on this call, I'm not saying for every single client, tell them A, B, C, D, no matter who you're talking to. Do y'all see why? It just depends. Some people will want one thing and somebody else will want something totally different. Now, obviously, there's some basic stuff like going over agency, what does that mean, and talking about your basic process. Whether they ask for it or not, I do need to touch on that stuff and make sure they understand. But as far as the actual value proposition, if someone says, I don't want all the detail, can you just give me the flyover? That might be appointment one in the day. But my second appointment in the day might say, I want all the detail and we'll have a much longer appointment. And it's just whatever it is that they need. So again, be funny, make money. If you can get them laughing, do it. You know, if they say they want an honest realtor, I like to say, ugh, you're so unreasonable. You want me to be honest with you? I can't believe it. And again, they usually laugh about that kind of stuff. Yep. Okay. So now let's talk about the idea of customer versus client. Um, there's a difference here of what do people get from you depending on how far they are in the process with you. So here's the thing. If you give away too much, it actually decreases your value. So if you are giving away all of your resources, here's my stager, here's my contractor, here's our list of things to do to get your house ready to list. That should really be saved for people who are actually in business relationship with you. So what you want to do is think through, what do customers get? And a customer is someone who has not yet hired you. So customers, kind of like the general public, they have not yet met with you. They have not yet signed an agreement hiring you. What do those people get? And I'll give you some suggestions here in just a moment. And then what do clients get? So what happens once you've actually hired me? What's different in our relationship? So that would be something I would spend time, and you probably just need like 15 minutes, honestly, of brainstorming. What do customers get? What do clients get? And then what I like to do when I'm talking with someone, if somebody says, hey, I'd love to know the value of my home, what some sentences you could say to help kind of save that for later is say, absolutely. Once we agree, or sorry, once we meet and agree to work together, I will definitely provide that for you. If they say, hey, I'm really curious what my home costs. Hey, that's exactly why we're getting together. That's what we'll cover in the appointment. All right. Again, if they say, hey, do you have a stager? Absolutely. That's something we provide for all of our clients. But what I'm not doing is before they've even met with me, I'm just giving away all of my stuff. Right. I saw the question come in. What about like a CMA? I'm a big no-no on a CMA. That's an opinion. Different people have different opinions. What I like to do if someone wants to know the value of their home, if they're interested in moving, we just need to get together. But if they're like, I'm honestly not moving, I just was curious, the price of my home, I'm just truly curious. I'm like that. I've renovated my home and I've been curious, like, what's my house? Right? Like, that makes sense. And so, what I like to do is give them a big range. You know, you could do that, but I won't get specific. And what's wild, I think this is wild, is I might say, hey, Colleen, I think your house is probably worth somewhere between 350 and 525. They are okay with that. I have not yet had anyone push back on me on a big range like that. It is wild. And what I like to say is, hey, when you are closer to actually being ready, we would drill that down to a very specific number. But for today, without seeing your home, and there's all this, you know, there's a lot of variables I don't know, probably somewhere in this general range. Yeah, you can send stuff like a pre-listing package and all that beforehand, but I'm talking about, I'm not actually giving them like a stager name until we've agreed to work together. I got to save some value. Now, what I save for value might be different than what you save for value, and that's okay. But you do want to get clear. What am I willing to give a customer? And what am I willing to give a client? And they need to be clear. And if you're on a team, you all need to agree on what that is. Let me give you an easy one before we go on to how to set the appointment. I used to look at, I see a lot of people say, can you go back to previous slides? It's hard to know which one you're even asking about. Remember, you'll get the recording, and I'm just going to keep going for now, but you will get the recording and can see all of this again. Um, One thing that I used to like to do is say that I'm talking to Bernie. I might say, hey, Bernie, I know you want to see houses and get some houses emailed to you. What I can do today is set you on a general search, and I'll start sending you houses that are 3-bedroom, 2-bath in the Taylor's area. Once we meet and agree to work together, part of what we'll do in that meeting is we'll actually draw boundary lines around where you want to live. We'll put down that you want hardwood floors and a pool. So when we meet in person, we'll get it way more specific with what you're looking for in a house. For now, I'll put you on a general search. Now, could I put them on a specific search today? Absolutely. But I just know if I'm giving away everything, I need to save some stuff for once they actually agree to work with me. And that's part of how you build value. Remember, 90 to 95% hire us using this method. So it totally works. So let's talk, and I am going to move fast. We've got like 2 minutes, and I want to give this to you. So I'm going to just keep going. You will get the recording. So how do you set the appointment to get the signature? You just simply say, hey, when we meet, we're going to do 3 things. And this is at the end of basically pre-screening them and everything. Okay. So, hey, when we meet, we're going to do 3 things. Number 1, we're going to go back over your motivation and price, make sure we're on the same page. Number 2, we'll interview each other, make sure we're a good fit. And I like to make them laugh a little bit. So I might say, hey, you know what, Laura, if you don't like me, please don't hire me. I'm not going to be offended. I think we'll get along just fine. But if you don't like me, please do not hire me. That's part of what the meeting is for, is to make sure we're a good fit. And then here's the big one. Put a star by this. If everything looks good, we will sign paperwork to activate the next step. Any questions? And the way I'm saying that is how you say it on the phone. There's no hesitation. There's a downswing, which means my voice is going down, not up. So downswing, it produces confidence. So that last sentence again, if everything looks good, we will sign paperwork to activate the next step. Any questions? And again, I might add in there, and also, if everything looks good, we'll sign paperwork to activate the next step. Also, that's what I'll provide for you, the stager. And that's when we'll set you up on that more specific search. That kind of thing. All right. So the key to value, listen to their story and help them get what they want. That is how you build value. It's all about the client, and it will look a little bit different depending on who you're talking to. So again, one person might want to know, what's your full marketing strategy? Someone else might say, I don't really care what your marketing strategy is. I just want to know what outcomes you have. So like, how quickly do you typically sell houses? That's what I want to know. So listen to their story and then help them get what they want. And then look at the chat box. There's a 2024 holiday calls playlist link. You all said you wanted option 2, so I moved real fast, knowing you could go to that YouTube link and rewatch this, pause it, all of that, to grab anything that you might have missed. So, Graham, if we need to go, that's fine. I could hang on for like 2 minutes to field any questions. So feel free to do that. The recording, it's in the link that was just posted by MAP staff Graham, 1229 in the chat box. There's a link that's right there in the chat box. Good. Thank you guys for joining me today. I know you did not have to be here, so thanks for being here. So again, check out the holiday call playlist link that is in the chat box to catch this recording. I think I saw it within 48 hours. If you want to rewatch anything, that's where it will be. All right, guys. Well, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for hanging out with me. And have a wonderful holiday. I'll see you in a future webinar somewhere.
Thanks, Anna. You killed it. Happy
You're
holidays,
welcome.
everybody. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.